Hello, my friends. We are live. This is Sean O'Neill on the Essential Talent Podcast. Yes, that is right. It is now a podcast. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And I'll turn that off. Getting interrupted. And we are also on Apple Podcasts, thanks to our technical man, Scott Newth. So we're everywhere. It's just bloody exciting. Now, can I just say before, and I'm very lucky because we've got Cam Bagrie here again, who's everywhere. He's on 3, he's on 1, he's on ZB, he's on every radio station. He's in hot demand. Then he comes across to the big show as well. The little show. It's a couple of hundred people that tune in. He's such a cool guy. Shawnee, we'll do it. Can I just say to Spotify, just a message to Spotify. I know that you have signed Joe Rogan up for 100 million to join Spotify in September. And can I just make it clear? Can I make it really, really clear that Cam Bagrie and myself are not interested in your 100 million? We are people of great principle. You keep your money. You had your opportunity to come and have a chat to us. You didn't. And I know, I speak for Cameron, that if you came along with 100 million today, Cameron would be the first to stand up and say, keep your money. We're not interested. Okay, so welcome, Cam. How have you been? You've been bloody busy. You've been doing a lot of stuff.
Actually, that's odd. In all honesty, I'd take the cash. In all honesty, this would be something I'd do with it. I'd fund financial literacy, Money Mojo, teach kids about managing money. Because I'll tell you what, I've got a real bee in my bonnet about that. In regard to the financial education, our kids have got. To me, money skills is a life skill.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to start with that sort of thing really young.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point trying to teach this sort of stuff to when kids are in the second half of their secondary school education. Just realise that, look, money doesn't buy happiness.
No.
But, it can create an awful lot of problems if you don't have it. So the better we manage, financial awareness, financial skills. I hate the term financial literacy, personally. I think it's the biggest turn off for a kid. You got to sort of sex this sort of thing up and make it a little bit more so it appeals to kids. So I use the term Money Mojo. But you've got to start with this sort of stuff in schools.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My eldest boy, Ben, who's 15, he absolutely loves maths, loves accounting, and loves economics. He's just right into it. And he gets in the car and he says, Dad, we're doing this, we're learning this about economics. I'm going, hey, that's cool, man. Get into it. It's fun. When did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? Did this come early on in life, or was it something when you just evolved? Did you go to, I guess you went to university?
Yeah, I can remember being a young kid and just reading the newspapers.
Yeah.
Right, and just going, there used to be 2 parts of the newspaper I'd read. The sports section was first.
Yeah.
And the business section was second.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as quite a young kid in the 1980s, all of a sudden I'm buying shares. Yeah. And I thought I was pretty clever, but in all honesty, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. It was pure guesswork, right? So of course, in 1987, I was still at high school and had a decent amount of cash in the equity market, and I got appropriately cleaned out over the next sort of 3 years. You name it, I had it. Rada Corporation and all the rest of them, those little beauties. But it was a valuable lesson in regard to learning a little bit of stuff in regard to how things operate. The balance between risk versus return. But I was lucky as a kid. Brought up in an orchard, which to be fair was a financial disaster for my family. But worked pretty hard, got some money, invested it in things like a motorbike and the share market. And the motorbike ended up having more value than the shares.
You know what? I totally agree with you in the fact that, I'm not a hugely materialistic person, but I do think it's important to teach kids about money. My boys are 15 and 13, and a few years ago, and I'm talking probably 5 years ago now, I said to them, right, boys, I'm going to explain how the share market works. And they said, what's the share market? I said, right, I'm going to give you $1,000 each. And you're going to come and you're going to pick a stock or a share. And if that company goes well, then the share price will go up. And so your $1,000 will turn into maybe $1,100 or $1,200 or $1,500 or whatever. I said, you have to decide when you're going to sell it. And then you pay me the $1,000 back and any fees that need to be paid, and you can keep the difference. So they picked their share, and I think one was Air New Zealand and one was something else. This is going back quite a few years ago now. And they'd come home every day and they'd get the laptop out and they'd have a look at the thing, which never ever changed really. It's just like every day they're getting so bored. And then about a few months later, there's a little spike, and they went, "Oh, I don't want to sell it, Dad." They only made about $50 or $100, but they still talk about it today. And my youngest boy wants to have a crack at that Sharesies thing. Would that be any good for people to have a go at? Small investments, isn't it? I suppose you can't talk about that. You've got to be careful, don't you, about how you talk about it.
I've got to be careful. It's been interesting to have a look at, the NZX has been struggling for the past sort of month or so to process all the transactions, because there's been a big surge in New Zealanders that started trading online.
Really?
Through shares. Yeah, the numbers have just gone absolutely through the roof.
Oh, really?
So I'm not quite sure what's happened, but obviously awful lot of people have probably got a little bit bored at home and suddenly thought they'd be traders. But the online order stuff through shares in particular, in regard to the number of trades, has gone absolutely skyward.
Is that right?
Those sort of platforms are interesting, right? In regard to, they allow people accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't need to be putting in, big trades, that sort of stuff.
No.
But to me, the bigger thing is just, it's getting people to have a bit of an interest.
Yeah.
Right. So if you talk to any 15, 16-year-old kid at the moment and you talk about, how do you feel about saving money? And it'll just go right over their head. We've got absolutely no interest at all.
Yeah.
Because if you talk to a kid about how would you like to manage your own portfolio? Now, it's not going to be a big portfolio, right? But a couple $100 here and there and that sort of stuff, and starting to take a little bit of interest. Are they going to do incredibly well? Well, if they're lucky, maybe. But to me, it's about teaching them some basic skills and taking a bit of an interest. Pick up the newspaper, read it in the reports. If you don't understand something, ask the questions. What does this mean? What do I need to be looking for?
Yeah, this is really funny because my 13-year-old, he's just turned 13, real quiet guy. He has been reading up on stuff, and he said, "Dad, is there any chance of me, getting a?" And I know that he's not allowed to because he's age and all that kind of thing, but maybe I can make them for him or something. I don't know, but he's real interested because he wants to read up on the businesses and how they're performing and all that kind of thing. And surely we've got to be teaching our kids that. Surely, we really do.
If they've got a bit of an interest, let them loose.
Yeah, that's what
that was actually one of the things that I found when I was growing up, that having the proper newspaper in front of you, where you could actually read through the things. It was actually an app. Of course, we've gone into online platforms and that sort of stuff. And in all honesty, I'm not going to look up and read the same sort of business pages in that sort of forum. So the old sort of model, the way we used to have it, where we had a set newspaper, it turned up. It was far more readable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe now you just do it sort of once a week. You get the old sort of decent Saturday edition, and away you go.
Hey, we've got a comment here from Kieran Wellesby, who says, a lot of time for this guy, calls it how it is. There are some major differences at the moment from bank to bank, some lending at 90% LVR to new clients, others closed for any lending at all, essentially to all customers. How do you see banks responding going forward?
Well, it depends how when you term responding, what you're actually talking about. So there was a bit of an issue came out today where the RBA has been out there sort of talking about the same line as the RBNZ in regard to banks being courageous. being prepared to dip into what's called their capital buffers, which is just a fancy way of saying, look, be prepared to wear some losses, support your clients, provide the liquidity. If the odd sort of thing goes pear-shaped, well, you've got a bit of a buffer to help people out. Of course, that's sort of not in human instinct, is it, to write a bad deal? You don't want things to go pear-shaped. And so what we're seeing at the moment in the market is obviously interest rates are at incredible lows. But the price of money is not really the issue. The issue is accessibility. Now, a good deal for any bank will still get written. But I guess if you're looking at, you're a bank at the moment, and you're starting to think, look, previously, you'd have to look at your job, your income, what your budget was, and maybe you put down an application, I've got this Airbnb income, I might have a border in my house as well. Well, I'll tell you what, the banks at the moment are having a lot more at the border, and odds are some banks are actually saying, well, that doesn't count. Airbnb income, well, for some banks, that doesn't count either. And they're starting to ask for evidence in regard to how secure your job is.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole landscape has fundamentally changed in regard to accessibility.
Hey guys, I'm not going to keep Cam too late tonight because he's in hot demand. But if you've got some questions, stick them in the comment section, and we'll ask them. So, how about some other thoughts of anything else that's come out after the since the budget? Anything that you're looking at that you're rolling your eyes at, or that you're concerned about, or that you think has been good?
Oh, we saw Fletcher Building, come out.
Yeah, shit.
And obviously like 1,500 staff, 1,000 Kiwis. They're expecting residential building to take a bit of a hit in 2021. The commercial sector is going to be weak as well. Okay, the government's going to be spending a whole lot of money in various infrastructure projects. We're still waiting in regard to that. But if you look at the numbers, the turnover of that business looks like it's going to go from about 9 billion down to about 7.5. Now, so what does that mean? You got a smaller pipeline. You've got to reset the cost line. Now, so they're taking out an awful lot of costs. And unfortunately, that's going to be very sad for a lot of people across New Zealand. And the flow-on effect of this, I think, is going to be pretty substantial as well. So, the optimists are pointing to the fact that looks like we're turning a corner. We're going from alert level 4 to 3 to 2. We might be at a 1 in a month or two. But the reality is that I think the cash burn that we're seeing is sowing the seeds of some pretty difficult times for a while yet. So I think we're going to see more layoffs over the coming 3 to 4 months, and that's going to be pretty hard.
This is why I like talking to you, because you actually don't bloody sugarcoat it. I mean, we've got to be realistic about what's ahead of us. Hey, I kind of touched on this last time I had a chat to you, and I don't know if we quite covered it off. What are your thoughts on, if we'd had a national government, how do you reckon they would have approached it? Do you think they would have approached this a lot differently as far as how much money they spent? Would they have been a little bit more conservative with the spend, do you think? What's your gut thought on that?
So if I have a look at what the current government is pumped in just in regard to COVID initiatives.
Yeah, 50 billion, is it? No.
62 billion.
62 billion, okay, yeah.
Of which there's about 20 odd billion still to be allocated. But the money's absolutely firing out the door.
Yeah.
Now, in all honesty, if we'd have had a national government, would we have seen a big number? The answer is yes. Would have been that big? I suspect the answer is no.
What do you reckon they would have spent?
Sorry?
What do you reckon they would have spent?
Yeah,
hard to say.
But I don't think it would have been that large. But I think their strategy would have been a little bit, less about just putting money directly into the economy, and a little bit more about trying to shore up confidence and give a little bit of a plan on the other side. So I've been pretty open, pretty vocal. I was supportive of the government in regard to the budget, in regard to they needed to go big, they went hard. So that means sending a lot of money out the door. That means we've got a fair bit of debt that's being loaded on the balance sheet. Where I've been quite critical of is that I just don't think there's a real economic plan behind it. And that worries me on the other side, because I think a lot of businesses out there at the moment are thinking, well, what's the other side going to look like? What is New Zealand going to be like? Yes, we know there's a lot of spending, but do we really have a framework for that spending? In fact, there was 19.4 billion, I think, off the top of my head, allocated in the budget. They got allocated about 2 weeks before the budget. Now, they couldn't even give us a list of what that $19.4 billion was being spent on. Apparently, we're supposed to get it tomorrow. Now, we know the bigger picture stuff. The wage subsidy scheme, there was 3.2, trades and apprenticeships, 1.6, about $1 billion worth of environmental related jobs. So we got the bigger picture sort of things. What I would have thought, if you're spending 19.4 billion, it should be pretty easy to get a list together in regard to where that money's going.
Yeah. Okay. How about the Fonterra news that was out today?
Yeah, glass half full there. The payout for the current season, I think up around $7 from memory.
Yeah, that's right.
Still looks pretty good. If you think about the standard cost structure for a dairy farm, and the high fives, sort of nudging $6. There's money in the tin. To be fair, the banks want that money in the tin to go to them, as opposed to remain in the tin, because the dairy farmers have got about $41 billion worth of debt. Big issue is the uncertainty over what the payout's going to be for the next financial year. So there's a big, wide variability over what that number could actually be. We've seen global dairy trade in the past sort of 2 to 3 weeks. They've actually held up pretty well. But I think the general expectations is that there's a bit more downside risk than up as 2021 2021 season unfolds. So it looks like we're going to get a payout, I think, in the low sixes, which for most of the sector is still okay. But you've got an awful lot of the sector out there at the moment that's still got a hell of a lot of debt, and that could be a bit of a problem.
Okay. Can we touch on your thoughts? And I know that you covered this today on ZB, but there'll be a few people that don't listen to ZB. Thoughts on mortgages, on interest rates, on what people, may or may not do with mortgage, if your mortgage is coming up. You're not a big fan of floating, are you, personally? Floating your mortgage? Never have been.
No, I can't see the value in a floating mortgage when you look at the difference between where carded floating mortgage rates are versus the 1 and the 2 year fixed rates are. We've seen one bank has come out, 1 year fixed rate's now 279. That's a long way away from where the floating rate is. Now, to be fair, the carded rate that the banks put out there, you never take that, because they've always got a little bit of a discount flexibility factor behind the scenes, so you can normally get 75 to 100 basis points off that. I think they're more towards 75 at the moment as opposed to 100. But for my own personal stuff, I've been typically 1 to 2 years, and that's worked pretty well, because it means if interest rates are moving, okay, you take it on the chin for a little bit when they're moving down, but you're not locked in for too long. I've still got some of my debt that's locked in, but it's going to roll off for the next sort of 12 months. So I'm going to benefit from low rates. So my strategy for some of my rentals has been a little bit of fixed cover, but not too much. One of the things that I'm thinking about 5 years out, I think ultimately interest rates are going to be higher. Now,
so when do you start looking at some of that longer stuff?
But that's I think I've got a fair bit of time on my side before I start to think about that. Right. I think the movement, interest rates have still got a little bit further to go on the south side. When I start to see things improve around the globe, ultimately I think we're going to see a bit of inflation about 3 to 5 years out around the globe. There's going to be no inflation in the next couple of years. So I'm not worried about interest rates moving up. But at some stage down the track, I think we're going to see inflation. What does that mean? instead of being targeting the 1-2 year rates for myself personally, I'll start to target somewhere in the 2, 3, 4, 5 year phase. But that's a future story, right? That's a few years down the track yet.
Yeah. So, okay. Thoughts on industries that will do well over the next 5-10 years in New Zealand? We may have touched on this before, but just as a bit of a recap on industries that, some positive news on stuff that may go really well.
Well, anything health related is going to be booming, not just because of demographics, because we're all aging, and of course the cost of looking after yourself tends to go up with age. Yeah, but the government is putting an awful lot more money into that sector. We're going to need to be a lot more prepared because COVID or variants of COVID are going to keep coming back. I think there's going to be a big push to make sure that New Zealand is a lot more ready in regard to the production of pharmaceuticals, medical-related products onshore as opposed to offshore. The population is aging, so what does that mean for different demand in regard to housing as well? You start to think about 1 and 2 bedroom units as opposed to the old McMansions, these sort of things. Manufacturing, I think, will make a bit of a comeback because I think there's a lot of pressure to see stuff onshore as opposed to offshore. Now, the trick is with manufacturing, we're still going to be cost competitive out there. But if I have a look at across New Zealand at the moment, one of the things I've learned over the years is that you can be in a real poor industry, but if you've got a bloody good firm, you can still be doing pretty damn well. You can be in a booming industry and still struggle. Go have a look at the financial results of Steel and Tube and Fletcher Building over the past 3 years. Construction sector, prior to COVID, was having a pretty good run. Were those firms doing well? The answer is no.
Yeah, you know what? I have said this before, Cam, about salespeople, bringing it down even more than business. I've managed different businesses over the years, and sometimes I've managed companies that have, are working, operating during drought. And what I have noticed is that a really great salesperson can actually make more money in tough times than they can in bad times because, their clients, take media, for example, their clients are sitting back and they're going, okay, I might have Bob and Harry and Tom that look after my account. And they're good guys, and I've had a beer with them in the past, and they take me to the rugby and all that kind of thing. That's cool. But actually, the guts of it is Bob does the best business. Bob actually gets the results for me. So I'm just going to give my money to Bob. And that's what happens. And all of a sudden, the guys that haven't actually done a good job of servicing the account, they think they have because they've got on with them and taken a morning tea and all that bullshit. But the top reps actually perform incredibly well. And I guess it's the same with businesses. There's an opportunity, isn't there? It's like if you're good at what you do, you can really shine.
Personally, I'm thinking about the downturn we're going through, and I'm thinking about it through a glass half full lens in regard to opportunities, because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities out of this, because buying some businesses, taking shareholdings, or just you're helping really good businesses to thrive at difficult times. That's just a lot more satisfying. Now, obviously, we can't be too glass-full because a downturn creates tremendous financial stress. People are losing their job, and it's a bloody disaster. Right?
Yeah, it is.
But rather than dwell on all that sort of negativity, you've got to sort of think about, there is going to be some good stuff out of this on the other side. Potentially, I'd like to see New Zealand get real aggressive in regard to making some pretty big changes that we need to make. If I have a look at New Zealand superannuation spending, 15 billion a year.
Yeah.
It's absolutely massive, and it's heading north because the population is aging. If we took the age of eligibility from 65 to 66, we'd save somewhere between $1 to $1.5 billion.
Yeah, amazing.
And people, that's a lot of money that can go into schools, health capability, that sort of stuff.
Hey, I've just had someone message me who wants me to quote them on you giving a 10-minute video each month for their business and their industry. So, hey, look, if you've watched a few videos here and that's something that you're interested in, or a webinar, Cam can customize something for your business and your industry. You just get hold of me at essentialtalent.co.nz and we will sort something out, because he is the best in the business. He doesn't sugarcoat it. I think he's actually a very optimistic guy, but he actually tells people how it is, and that's, you can't bullshit through times like this. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Have a wonderful night.
All the best. Take care.
Right. I'll talk to you soon, sir. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
That's Cam Bagrie. Great guy, great economist, and he's part of the Essential Talent roster. So, yes, if you are wanting Cam to talk to your team or to your clients, you just get hold of us at essentialtalent.co.nz. You've been listening. You've been watching the Essential Talent podcast. Thank you to our technical man, Scott Newth, and our researcher, Meg Highland. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We'll talk to you again soon. Sorry, Spotify, we don't want the 100 million. It's just not enough.